I believe that if you care about the users, if you make sure that they are having the best experience and you prove that you are there for them anytime that they need you, the most probable thing that it's going to happen is that they are going to recommend the app to their families or friends, for example. And that starts a social viral loop that can help you.
Today is a very exciting day on Mobile Heroes Uncensored. We're going to the land of the Amazon, the land of Carnival. We're going to Rio, land of Samba. I don't know, maybe do a little dancing and so much more. It's a road trip, of course. We're going to Brazil. It's the 5th largest country in the world, 7th by population, with 220 million people. We're going to chat apps, growth, what works in Brazil. Peggy, who's our guest?
I love road trips, John. Come to think of it.
Do you love Samba?
I do, actually. I was trying to get my head around that. That's part of my New Year's resolution. That's my own little secret.
Oh,
Who
we
would have
need
ever
some
thought it, right?
demos.
There you go. You never know what will happen.
Cool.
And we have an exciting guest who is actually working with apps in Brazil, based in Argentina, but I'll get to that in a moment. He's Christian Gaitan, until recently performance lead at Lemon, the crypto app, bar none, in Argentina, which just expanded to Brazil. And he has more than a decade of experience in digital marketing. He has rubbed shoulders with a slew of media agency companies executing branding and performance strategies for consumer goods, retail, and automotive companies. And the last 2 years saw him work with a roster of impressive apps, including Cabify, Eatermax, great gaming app, and Ripio. His colleagues, John, say that, and I quote, "Having him on your team is a guarantee of results and commitment."
Wow.
No pressure there, but maybe having him on our
Guarantee.
show.
Holy cow. Hire this man.
Hire this man. He's on our show. He's going to crush it, John. We'll leave it to Christian.
Hello, guys, and don't believe on those guys that I'm saying that.
We believe every word they say. We believe everything they've said.
No.
So sorry. We have to say off the top here that we didn't just plan to do a show on Brazil with somebody who works in Brazil but is in Argentina. We also had a Brazilian, but he had a very good excuse. He had acute appendicitis and was just having his appendix taken out just a couple days ago. So we'll get him in as well, and maybe we'll extend the road trip. That can't be bad, right? We'll go to Rio twice. I'd sign up for that. Anyways, we're super happy to have Christian here, and have to start here. Obviously, a lot of your work, maybe almost all your work, is in Brazil, but you are Argentinian. The World Cup just happened. Congratulations. It must have been insane.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have to say I was expecting Pedro to be here today, because even though I'm very happy about the World Cup winning, I have a lot of respect about Brazil. I mean, they are the most World Cups winning in the history of football. So they are a great national team too. Yeah.
No question. No question. Absolutely.
So staying with the numbers, not just the number of trophies, but Brazil by the numbers, right, offers eye-watering opportunities if you take a look at it, despite a recession, right? Total app revenue crossed the 3 billion mark last year, and that number is set to surpass 4 billion by 2026. So in addition to insane growth, how would you describe the market conditions there for marketers?
Yeah, actually, I truly believe that Brazil as a market represents a huge opportunity, especially for apps. I had the chance to visit the country a few times during the past year. And actually, I got surprised about how Brazilians have adopted technology and how they manage almost everything through an app. So based on that, based on the size of the country, yeah, I definitely believe that it's a market that represents a huge opportunity for the brands. Yeah.
That's really interesting what you just said there, Christian, because what that reminds me of is China, right? You said manage everything through an app, right? You go to China and you pay for your meal on your mobile. You go to China and you order something on your mobile and you do everything. Is that sort of similar to how you feel in Brazil?
Yeah, totally. Actually, it was kind of surprising for me because again, I'm here in Argentina. We are really close to Brazil, but here things works completely different. I mean, they are really far away from us in terms of technology adoption. And actually for me it was the same. I mean, I did everything through my phone using different apps, even the Airbnb booking, and I didn't interact with any human. It was everything through WhatsApp, and I got a code to enter the room. So yeah, again, it's really easy to use technology to do whatever you want.
So that's a good place, a good segue, actually, talking about interacting with humans or not. I mean, user acquisition, like all marketing, starts with knowing your audience, knowing who's using the app or who could use the app or who would want to, right? Talk about Brazilian users. We know they're passionate about soccer. What differentiates people in Brazil and their use of mobile and what they're most interested in versus maybe other people in the world?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Um, One of the first things that we realized when we started to analyze the competitors that we have at Lemon was that all of them were using the football as a hook. Not only in terms of ads or doing partnerships with football teams or players, but also they adopted football and using it with their product, to align or try to align with football and how passionate the Brazilians are about it. Actually, something that surprised us the most was that fan tokens, for example, were in the top one or three of the most buy tokens in the market. So I believe that gives you an image about how passionate Brazilians are about football. Yeah.
What's some of the biggest misconceptions about mobile users, mobile app users in Brazil?
Okay. So I believe that the biggest mistake you can commit is to considering that you can communicate the same way you are doing it in any other country in the region. I mean, Brazilians speaks a completely different language for a start. Also the culture is completely different from other countries in Latam. You spoke about the samba, about everything that happens in Rio and so on, and also the country is so big and they have many people, so there is a lot of diversity. You can speak the same way to someone from the south or the north. You can speak the same way to someone that it's in Rio, that what you are doing to speak with someone in Sao Paulo, for example. And it's really important to get that and consider it when you are building a marketing plan to try to sell a product in Brazil.
Peggy, that's such a good point. I was smiling when Christian was talking about that because I was imagining like a marketer coming into the US from another part of the world and having the same campaign in Manhattan and Arkansas, right? Just totally different people, different cultures, different language, all that stuff, right? And yet, if we go and we look at some other country, whether that's Brazil or whether that's, I don't know, whatever, Germany or England, we think, oh, well, it's England, it's a thing, it's like unified whole, right? And it's just so different in reality.
No, and that other thing that gets me is the soccer hook, right? The football, sorry. But we'll call it soccer here. Uh, the soccer hook. I mean, that's not a small point. That's a passion that motivates purchasing decisions. That motivates, app installs and loyalty. I'm just curious because I have to understand what you did at Lemon. that hooks back into football. Did you manage to hook into the hook?
Yeah, actually, Lemon, it's not a brand very related to football, but when you land in a country as Brazil, that again it's really passionate about football, and and the same here in Argentina. I mean, when we were closer to the World Cup, we understood that we need to do something related to the World Cup. You know, I mean, even though we are not a football brand, we can't not speak about the World Cup because we are in Argentina and we are trying to land in Brazil again. So in Brazil was more focused on again try to list all those football tokens of the different football teams such as Flamengo, São Paulo, that again we realized that were some of the most buy from the users. But again, we realized that we had the need to adapt our product to the culture, to the country, to the customer behavior that was more related to buy something like a fan token from Flamengo and not maybe a Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I'll put this to both you, Peggy and to Christian, because when I hear something like that, then I think a couple things, right? One, if everybody and every marketer goes after the football, soccer thing, then it's not differentiated. And you might as well try something totally different and it might stand out just because it is. The other is when there's so much flow in one direction, there's got to be a counterflow. Are there people that hate football or hate soccer in Brazil? There is it maybe a tiny percentage, and you'd have an ad like football sucks, doesn't it? And maybe I don't get a lot of hate, but maybe get something going. I don't know. Am I crazy, Christian?
No, no, no. You are totally correct. Yeah, I mean it's tricky because you probably know that the users that you are trying to reach has completely different interests, so it's difficult sometimes to cover all that. But again, when you talk about countries, especially South American countries, it's really important to understand what they really like and to get stick to that and communicate it something related to that. Yeah.
I agree.
It's a great segue to how to reach people because it's a young demographic. The market is very diverse in Brazil, very young demographic. Now, in your Mobile Heroes blog that you have and Pager had as well, interestingly, both of you are really bullish about Google and Meta. You say both are a must. But what are the other channels that are effective and maybe even overlooked in that region when it comes to reaching and engaging audiences?
Yeah, well, as you said, it is a young demographic, and consumer habits have been changing during the past years. Most of them spend a lot of time on entertainment platforms, especially those of short form video, such as TikTok or Kawaii. Maybe Kawaii it's not a popular app all over the globe, but it has a really big community in Brazil. So in my experience, I had really good results working with those two platforms. Actually, I have to say that for me, TikTok is already a must in every media plan. But again, as I was saying before, Kawaii has a big community in Brazil, so it's also a really interesting platform to try there. But aside from that, I also had really good results with programmatic platforms such as Liftoff, for example, and another kind of platforms that offer on-device media. And I believe that this is also interesting and it's also related what we were saying before about the size of the country, about how many people live in Brazil, that was running campaigns on Xiaomi, for example, that it's yeah, cell phones developer that maybe here in Argentina or in another countries from the region doesn't have many penetration, but in Brazil, it's insane how many Xiaomi's cell phones or smartphones are sold. So it's also a good opportunity to run those campaigns on device media from Xiaomi, because you could have also really good results there. Yeah.
And just to be sure that I understand what you're talking about there, you're talking about basically OEM platforms and they have a lock screen ad that they sell, or they have a home screen type of ad that they sell, those sorts of things.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
Very, very interesting. Something that I've heard about more and more. And of course, Brazil, I'm guessing it's 95% Android. I haven't recently checked the stats there. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah. That's completely accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing you talked about is using short form video. Of course, that's taken the entire world by storm. Brazil's not unique in that. But you mentioned to Peggy in the prep chat about social proof and its importance to Brazil's audience. Talk about that and maybe how you use that with maybe short form video platforms.
Well, definitely on TikTok, what we did was based on social proof. We hired two content creators, and everything what we did on the platform was focused on that, especially trying to explain to users how the app works, and how can they register, how can they buy crypto, how can they ask for the prepaid card, or whatever. But yes, I mean, aside from that, because I believe that the social proof is not only related with media. Something that we used to do at Lemon was to care a lot about the user experience, because I believe that if you care about the users, if you make sure that they are having the best experience, and you prove that you are there for them anytime that they need you, the most probable thing that it's going to happen, it's that they are going to recommend the app to their families or friends, for example. And that starts a social viral loop that can help you to grow organically. So that way you don't need to think about the social proof on media, that it's also important. But also, again, you are not going to need to spend so much money to grow if you are doing things well, and if you care about the users that you start to acquire. But also, another thing that we used to care a lot were the reviews of the app in the stores. I mean, every time that someone's download an app for the first time, uh, probably the first thing that they do is to check the reviews and see how was the experience from another users. In the same way, I think that as users, and most of the time, our social proof starts by looking at the comments on the stores, and the social media accounts from the brand, to try to understand what they are downloading, what they are going to find once they download the app, and how it was the experience from people like you, that it's trying to find the same solutions or similar products in the market.
So it's about making certain that there's social proof. People are recommending the app, talking about it. That's great. But at the end of the day, it also means that you have built a relationship. You've cemented trust with the audience. They like what they have. They're going to tell everyone about it. But you have a crypto app, Chris. And of course, we have schemes like FTX. They just took their toll. It'll get better. Always an optimist, but it's now going to be more important, even harder than ever, to show your app is legit, not a scam. This is good. This is not something that we need to be thinking about or over engineering. It's an app. It does what it says on the can, so to speak. How do you approach this? How do you make your users, I wouldn't say make them trust you, but how do you approach this to get that message across?
Yeah, I agree 100% with you, Peggy. I believe that nowadays trust is everything, especially for crypto apps. And in fact, after what happened with FTX, not only Lemon, but many other crypto platforms decided to show their proof of funds in an effort to become more transparent with their users and assure them that their savings were safe, you know. As you were saying, trust has become a very important component of the industry. Again, especially for crypto after everything that happened, not only with FTX. I mean, I believe that 2022 was a tough year for the whole industry. I believe that trust it's really important. But again, not only for crypto, but for any business. And yes, it's also really connected with all the social proof that we were discussing before. Building communities around the product, it's key. So build those communities from trust, it's fundamental.
Let's hit creative a little bit. Brazil has a very defined aesthetic, let's put it that way, right? There's certain colors that we think of when we think of Brazil. There's a certain flamboyancy that we think of when we think of Carnival, right? And other things like that. What are you doing and how are you changing creative as you approach the Brazilian market?
That was a really really big challenge. I mean, the advantage that we had at Lemon was that probably all those colors that you were talking about are very related with our brand and the lemon. You know, the lemon is yellow and it's part from the Brazilian flag. But again, going back to the beginning, something that we understood is that we can speak the same way uh, to all the Brazilian population. So basically, what we tried to do was to test different designs, different colors, different type of messages. Some of them more direct than the others. But yes, we are still trying to figure out what is the best way to communicate. Something that we realize is that it's not enough to copy paste what we were doing in Argentina, again, as I said before, but also we understand that we need to test, we need to iterate, and we need to find the right way to communicate to everyone in the country. Yeah.
And yellow helps, right?
And yellow helps. Yeah.
Yellow helps. That'll nail it. That gets the attention.
Yeah, totally.
You do a lot of creative testing and you're looking at what works, but all of that optimization is pretty much left to algorithms. But privacy rules are changing what optimization algorithms can do. Now, you, in your blog, you suggest a shift toward contextual clues. That sounds exciting. I'm just watching The Glass Onion. Contextual clues is underway. What is this shift? What do you mean by this? Why is this so important?
Something that I realize is that platforms are changing. Also, what you mentioned, it's also relevant. I mean, all the privacy rules and the data that you may have to optimize those campaigns to create audiences, to segment those campaigns and to target users. Platforms are changing, and nowadays most of them, or even though I mean the most popular ones that are Google and Meta, are changing the way that they optimize, and they give all the power to the algorithm. And at the end, the only or the best way that you have to optimize your campaigns, it's based on the creatives, based on the ads. Because when you look at the way to set up a campaign, or when you talk with someone from Meta or Google, the recommendation is always let the algorithm work, let the algorithm learn, and start optimizing the campaigns towards the goals that you are looking for. So in the meantime, what you can do, it's, again, I believe that the only thing that you can do is to improve all the design part, the creatives that you are using, maybe to do an A/B test or whatever. But again, I believe it's the only way that you have nowadays to optimize your campaigns, considering all that automation of the platforms. Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Hey, I mean, what can I do? You ask Meta, you ask Google, feed more money into the machine.
Yeah,
Feed more money into the
exactly.
machine. The
Yeah,
machine will
yeah.
get smarter. The machine will figure it out. We won't tell you why. We won't tell you how. It just will. Trust us. It'll all work out. Well, you do have the flexibility of adjusting the creative. That's great. You also have the ability to decide where you spend your dollars. So that's also great. Well, we've got to end this pretty soon. So we're going to ask the question we ask everybody on Mobile Heroes Uncensored, which is, what is your least censored opinion about mobile and marketing?
I will say, come on, guys. We are already in 2023. Demand transparency. I know that probably for our time, partners already built all the media solutions that are available and you are using them. So media companies can change their names, their business models, or their approach to you by LinkedIn. But at the end, there are no wizards, there are no gurus or magic recipes. It's all already invented, and you know which platform works, and it's all based on test, on iterate, and find what really works.
I really like to find some wizards and gurus, but you're right. You do have to test and learn and all that stuff. I get it. Talk to marketers who are thinking about entering Brazil in 2023. What would your top tips be for them?
First of all, and I mean, it can sound an easy one, but not everyone keep it in mind. Uh, Validate your product market fit. Maybe you have a product that works really well in a country from the same region, but again, Brazil, it's a completely different history. So again, validate your product market fit. Really understand who your customer is and what their habits are, because again, it's a huge country with a lot of people, with a lot of diversity. So you will need to understand really well who are you talking with, and how. And finally, go big or go home. Again, it's a huge challenge.
Just
Awesome.
putting that together here between all the other key takeaways here, John. We know that you need to be loud and interesting creatives in Brazil. Big passion. Love the tips on the social media networks. I didn't know that one before. And there are no wizards, John.
Come on, come on. Did you look behind the
I
curtain? Did you?
I'm blown away. I was thinking there was someone behind the curtain to this day, but no, not in 2023. Christian has opened our eyes to the truth. Christian, thanks so much for sharing, especially the tips for other marketers when they want to enter Brazil. It's been great.
Thanks to you guys, Peggy, John. It was great to meet you and being here with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all the listeners. We really do appreciate you. Hope you're enjoying it. Let us know on social if you are.
And let us know if you want to come and we'll have you on the show. If you're a mobile hero or you know of someone who is, then fill out the interest form over at shorturl.at/JKSKT.
Also, Liftoff has a Slack for mobile heroes and people in the mobile ecosystem. There's a link on the screen. And if you're listening to the podcast, it's at info.liftoff.io/Slack-sign up. It's pretty cool. There's smart people there. And you know what? They probably need you too.
And you have probably been completely blown away by all the insights on this show, and you want your transcript, and you can have it because the transcripts are over at Liftoff's website. Go to liftoff.io, click on Heroes, and then click on Podcast.
I actually personally love transcripts because I read way faster than people talk. So that's a great way to get insights really, really quickly. Until next time, this is John Katsir. Thank you so much for joining.
And this is Peggy Ann Saltz signing off for Mobile Heroes Uncensored.